Hey, this is Mark from Psalm 19 Productions. Today in the Christian Profile, we have with us Randy. Randy, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Mark. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
That's
Thank you.
good.
Thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it. Again, we're just kind of getting rolling with this, so you are one of the first guests. So bear with me a little bit, but yeah, thanks again for coming.
Sure.
So, first question that I have for you is, what did childhood look like?
My childhood was, a lot of people tell me I grew up in my brother's shadow because everything came easy to him. Things did not come so easy to me.
Right.
What I've learned since I found God is I have my own shadow.
Right. Yeah, fantastic. Right. So, did you grow up? Where did you grow up? Let me say
I grew up in Boyertown, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And then I lived in Virginia for 10 years. I left my wife, no fault of hers. And I moved to Virginia. She put up with a lot more than she should have had to put up with.
Sure. Yeah. At what age did you become a Christian? What drew you to Christ?
There was a girl at the post office. Her name was Cynthia. Well, it's still Cynthia. I just don't see her anymore. But her name is Cynthia. And I would talk to her. I just had a sense about her, and I would talk to her, and every time I would talk to her, she would say, well, I'll pray for you.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. I was thinking, yeah, you go ahead, waste your time, go ahead. You just carry on with that.
Yeah.
And one day, the day I came to it, I found out later they call it the end of yourself.
Yeah.
It was just a regular day at work.
Right.
I did grow up in the Lutheran church,
okay,
which I think helped me when I came to the realization that I needed something.
Yeah.
And Cynthia, she never preached to me, not a word. All she ever did was say, I'll pray for you.
Yeah.
And the day I came to the end of myself, I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I thought, well, I should probably call Cynthia.
Yeah.
She lived right near the post office. So she came up and talked to me, and at 4:30 in the afternoon, on August 28th, I received the Holy Spirit in the post office parking lot.
Right. Yeah, it's fantastic. Right. So when you said too that Cynthia was saying, "I'll pray for you," you said, "Yeah, go ahead, waste your time." No, you didn't. They didn't say that.
Right. I didn't say it, but in my head, I said it.
Go ahead, waste your time.
Yeah.
But did you have a sense that? Did you believe? Yeah, there is a God, or were you at that point just like, I don't even think there is a God?
I did at one point when I was younger. I was quite involved in the church growing up. I would give children's sermons on some Sundays. We'd have all the kids come up to the front, and then I'd give them a sermon that was kind of like the pastor's sermon, but on a lower level, so that they could understand it,
Yeah.
And I was involved in youth group. Went to youth group every Sunday. But I think all that helped me when I came to the end of me.
Sure.
That I had that foundation, and my parents gave me that foundation, you know.
Yeah, there was a seed there.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't growing yet, right? But that seed was dormant.
Yeah.
It was there, sure. What was it, do you think, like, because you had that seed there, right? And you're involved in the church, but somehow you're not really making a connection with God, right? Like,
well, you have to understand, and man, I hope my friends don't see this, but you have to understand the Lutheran Church, okay? It's that far away from the Catholic Church, okay? But we went to church every Sunday, but we weren't godly at all, you know? We'd pray before we ate supper, but it was just a silent prayer, you know, like nobody actually prayed,
right?
You know? So, the Lutheran Church is different than how I know God now.
Mm-hmm.
I got to say, when I was in the Lutheran Church, God wasn't my friend.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now he's an integral, I think is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, it works.
He's a point that much of my life.
Yeah.
And before we would go to, we'd go to church on Sunday, and then my dad didn't, but I would hang out with the devil all week.
Yeah.
And I was good as long as I got to go to church on Sunday,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And now my dad wasn't like that. He didn't drink. He didn't smoke. He's really active in the church even now. He's 90 years old, 91, I guess he is now.
Wow. Okay.
I get a kick out of him because he says, I asked him one time, I said, so what are you doing these days? He said, I'm driving old people to the doctor. I'm thinking, how old are these people?
And he's calling them all.
Yeah, you know.
I like that.
So yeah, yeah, that's all I got to say about that, really.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
though. Yeah.
he does have a good sense of humor, and I think I got mine from him. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. So then, next question. I don't know that it really gets away from that subject. It doesn't really, but a struggle in life, and it could be any struggle, from something small to something major, whatever you would like to share. Because again, this is going to be
so many. There's so many.
yeah. So
like, how many do you want me to pick, 3 or 4 or what?
well, you know what? What do you want to do? And maybe one struggle leads to the next. But then in this,
okay,
where did you find, or where did you find God in it?
I was very small when I graduated high school. I was 4'8" and weighed 98 pounds.
Okay.
So needless to say, high school wasn't always a fun time.
Right.
And now I forget where I was going with that. Shoot me a question again.
You know what? It was the struggle in life, right?
Oh, okay.
And then how did you find God in the midst of that? But again, a couple struggles may lead into.
When I met Cynthia, I was one operation away from being Rachel Smith for the rest of my life.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a struggle. And if there's one thing that I cannot say enough, don't do that.
Okay.
Please, whatever you do, don't go down that road.
Right.
Okay. God made you the way God wants you.
Right.
Okay. Don't think you can improve on his design, because you can't.
Right.
I tried it. It doesn't work. It leads to, I don't want to say it leads to ruin, but it didn't alleviate any problems that I had. You know what I mean?
Right.
All the problems that I had were still there.
Right.
Cynthia told me a story. She said, you had me until you talked. The first time she come in the post office and I was there.
Yeah.
Because I was living my life as Rachel Smith. Okay.
Yeah.
I worked, I did everything. But she said, after you talked, I looked up and I said, God, let me have that one.
Yeah.
And in the end, he did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and then I found out it wasn't only her that was praying. I knew the people on my mail route. I mean, I saw them a lot.
Yeah.
And they didn't treat me badly or anything, even though they knew I wasn't a female, because I still talked like this.
Right.
I made no attempt to. That's a lie. I tried to do it, but it didn't work, so I just gave up and still talk like this.
Sure.
So, but one of the most humbling experiences I had was when I detransitioned, and the people on my mail route said, "We've been praying for you."
Right. Right.
I'm like, really? You're wasting your time? I mean, at that time, it was like,
you feel like you're a waste of time.
Yes. Why would you pray for me? You don't have anything better to pray about than pray for me. But that was one of the most humbling experiences I ever had. When, I mean, you know them, but you don't really know them. You know what I mean? You just give them their mail. You might say hello, ask them how their dog's doing or something.
Yeah.
But for that many people, sorry.
Take your time.
For that many people to be praying for me, what makes me worth it?
Right. Right.
You know, so. And
it was genuine too, right? You know, it wasn't about, trying to make you fit their mold.
Oh yeah, no.
They genuinely cared about
yes.
you. This person
absolutely
has value. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, I don't know, I was lost, and I was lost.
Yeah.
But there was only, I shouldn't say only, there was probably 10, 11 people that told me after I detransitioned that they were praying for me.
Right. Right.
Why?
Right.
Why?
Right.
I mean, that's very humbling when people tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. We don't see the value that God has on us or who we are.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't see it. We feel worthless, and it's not the case. Yeah.
Yeah. And my, like I said, I was real small, and I had one really good friend in high school, and I didn't realize he was a really good friend until I angered him enough that we don't even talk anymore. So.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I think it happens. You know, you realize it's a little too late, right? That hey, this guy was a better friend than I realized.
Yes, absolutely.
That's. I mean, that's a. I almost don't want to go on with other questions because, I appreciate too. You know, you being willing to share that. I mean, that's.
Well, that's. I hand out copies of my testimony. I Uber now.
Yeah.
Okay, and I have copies of my testimony all the time. But I felt bad about, especially in this day and age, I felt bad about saying, hey, you know. So God enlightened me, and he said, why don't you put a sign on the back seat of your car, on the back of the front seat, that says, please feel free to take a copy of my testimony.
Yeah.
And if I can reach just one person, to stop them from doing the silliness I did, then my life won't be a total waste anyway.
Yeah. Well,
and I've been getting rid of, I mean, testimonies are flying out of my car.
Yeah.
And I get to evangelize to a lot of people because they ask me, you know, some of the rides are pretty long.
Yeah. And
they'll ask you, you know, like I had one girl the other day, she was reading it in the back of the car, and then she started asking me questions, you know, and I don't pull any punches when I talk to someone about it because it's just.
We shouldn't. You've experienced it, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
And it's just a waste. It's such a waste of, I mean, I wasted those 10 years of my life for nothing.
Yeah, but what seems like a waste, right? You know, it's like God, he says he turns those things
right,
for good.
Right,
yeah,
right.
So it's
so if he can use me for good by handing out my testimony, if that, some lady said, well, you use a lot of paper. I said, if that's all God asked me to do is buy some printer paper for what he's done for me, I'm good with that.
You're good. Yeah.
I'd buy just as much paper as he wants me to buy.
Right. Right. So I guess kind of onto the next question here. What do you feel was your greatest Christian experience? And how was God involved in that? How did you see his hand?
Man.
And maybe you already answered that in the last little segment.
There's so many. I have like, there was just one the other week, but I started putting them. My testimony's getting pretty long, but anyway, somebody asked me, they said, when are you going to stop writing? I said, when God stops doing stuff for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. When he stops doing stuff, then I'll stop writing stuff. Because
probably when I'm dead.
right. Because I think that once you come to Christ, things are no longer stuff happens. You just see him everywhere.
Right.
It's just amazing. He's just the things he does.
He really is in everything.
Yeah.
We'll look. Yeah.
And here I have one at the back of my testimony. This just happened the other day. Okay. I try to tithe. I don't always do it, but I try my best. So I was arguing with God the other week before I went to church. I was going to hold back $10. I was writing my check out for $40. And you know how God is, you know, 50 is really what you should be doing, you know.
Right.
And 40 is enough. 50. So anyway, I wrote the check for $50. 2 days later, I'm out Ubering there's a piece of paper laying in the street. I can see it as I'm getting to it. All of a sudden, it blows up in the air. Sure as I'm sitting here, it turned so that I could see it was a $10 bill. So I pull over when it was safe, get out of my car, I start walking back up the street. And I'm looking in the street where I saw it, and it ain't there anymore. And I looked down like that, and it was right at my feet. And it was just like he said, trust me. Trust me.
Right.
I'll take care of you. Trust me.
Right. Right.
And it's things like that, like a non-believer would say, big deal, if a gust of wind came along. Yeah. Who makes the wind?
Yeah. Yeah, it's coincidence, right? But it's after you've seen
Right,
so many coincidences, you realize.
Yeah,
this is
it's just not anymore. It's
Right.
just not.
right.
You know, it's just he's everywhere.
Yeah. In the midst, and he cares. He does.
Yeah.
care. Yeah, about everything.
Yeah, and I have trouble. I really do have trouble putting my absolute trust in him. Like I was talking to a girl last year before I moved up here, and she was having trouble finding a place to live, and she said, well, God will find me a place.
Yeah.
And she was like not even worried, and it's like she needs to move in 2 weeks, and she's got nowhere to go.
Right.
And she just said, well, God will find it. God will find me a place.
Right.
And sure enough, it was like a week later, boom, a place just fell into her lap.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you just gotta have faith.
You do. But it is a walk, isn't it? It really is this walk in life of learning to trust.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the different backgrounds we come from affects, how we seem to view God. So I find it it's interesting. It is hard to trust him at times.
Yeah.
It is. But as you learn to,
Yeah.
life gets better.
Yeah, it
doesn't
does. It does. It's my life is better now than it's ever been. There is no drug that I ever did, and there was a lot of those.
Yeah.
I never stuck a needle in my arm because it's a story a friend of mine told me. He told me that he had to help a guy that I knew. I wouldn't really consider the other guy a friend, but my friend told me he had to help this guy shoot up because he couldn't hit his vein. And that story right there was enough that Randy ain't ever sticking a needle in his arm, okay?
Yeah.
Because I can do a lot of things without sticking a needle in my
Yeah.
arm, and I did most of it.
The best worst story you ever heard, right? It
Right,
saved you a
right,
lot.
yeah, it saved me. That saved me a lot.
Yeah. What would you say? What's your favorite scripture, and why? Maybe.
Geez, there's so many, but I would have to say my favorite one is, and I'm probably going to get this verse wrong because I do it all the time.
Sure.
Chapter 6 of Matthew, verse, I think it's 33, where Jesus says, don't worry about tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't worry about your clothes. Don't worry about what you wear. Don't worry about none of that stuff.
Yeah. I got you.
You know?
If I'm going to take care of the birds, I'm going to take
Right. And once you stop worrying about every little thing, you're just like you're just free. You're just
you get to enjoy the people around you. Life.
I mean, that's not to say I just go through the world willy-nilly and don't care about anything, but I don't fret over it anymore.
Right. Right.
Think about it, do what I can, and then they'll do the rest.
Right. Right. So then I think probably the last question that I have would be Christians out there, if you could give them one bit of advice, what would that advice be?
Christians, not non-Christians. See, there's a big difference there.
Yeah, so you know what? There absolutely is. So let's do, what would you say to Christians? And then we'll do, what would you say to non-Christians?
Well, to Christians, I would say just believe.
Yeah.
Just believe.
Right.
That's I mean, that's step number one. Just believe. And know that God has you. He has a hold of you. He watches for you all the time. He's looking out for you. So to Christians, I would say, just believe.
Yeah.
Just believe.
Right. So
if you're not a Christian, you're not going to believe anyway.
no, you will not. Right?
Because I went through that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So many of us did, right? So, like, then a non-Christian,
Stay away from drugs and alcohol.
and that's simple. That's the end of that.
That's it, man. I mean, that was my big thing was drugs and alcohol, and
You think that had a big part in taking you down the road you traveled?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh without a doubt, yeah. Because my years from I turned my back on God when I was 17, and just started hanging out at the bowling alley, and there was some nefarious characters in there, but before I turned my back on God, I would go to church every Sunday, and I really didn't hang out with them guys. You know what I mean? They were at the bowling alley, so was I, but then I got to know them. That wasn't a good thing, okay? So, yeah, stay away from drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
That would be the best thing, the best advice I can give anyone.
Right.
Because there's no future in it. There's
Right.
no future in it. All you do is wake up in the morning, stick your hand in your pocket, and see if you got any money left.
Right. Yeah, you kind of you become a slave,
Yeah,
really, right?
That's all you are. I'd get off work. I'd call it a functioning alcoholic is what I was. Because I always went to work.
Yeah.
You know, but when I got off work, I'd go to the bar, and I'd be in the bar until 9, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Go home, sleep, yeah, go to work. But those years from 17 to 64, when I came to Jesus, or Jesus came for me. Jesus came for me because I wasn't looking for him.
Right.
I was happy over there in my sin.
Yeah.
But those years are really flashes. Like, I don't know how a regular person's memory works, because I don't think I have a regular person's memory,
Okay,
because I screwed it all up.
Right.
So there's no, there's flashes of memory there, but there's really nothing. Like, I can't tell you what I did in a summary of, I'll say, 18 to 26.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's just, like, other people can say, oh yeah, I had my kid when I was, this. Like, I married a woman who had a child, and I was okay with that. I didn't want to have any of my own, so that was a good thing. But I can't tell you how old she was when we got together. I can't tell you how old she is now.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was no concern of mine. You know what I mean? I mean, I loved her. I really did. I hope she don't watch this, but I probably wouldn't have married her mother if it wouldn't have been for her. We don't talk anymore. But I don't know how a regular memory works, because I don't think I have one.
Right.
It's so screwed up in there that,
Right.
and that's all from the drugs and the alcohol.
Right.
Yeah. So don't do that.
There it is. There you have it. This is, Randy's advice: if you're a believer, believe.
Right.
And if
Right.
you're not, stay
No,
away
if you're a
from drugs.
Christian, believe.
Yes.
See?
So there it is, Randy.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming.
Well, I
and doing this.
appreciate you having me, Mark. I do,
absolutely.
really.
And I feel like there's so much more to your story that I would love to hear and learn from your experiences in life. And I know it could be, very useful out there as well. So I think at some point in the future, if you're willing to come back to the studio here,
anything for Jesus, man, anything.
We'd love to have you back in here.
Anytime, just give me a ring, and it's all about Jesus. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. That's all I can say.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming, and thanks for tuning in.